Now joining me is the home team coach for tonight's contest between the Harker Heights Knights and the Killeen Kangaroos, what was known as the Nolan Creek Shootout. I'm not sure if it'll be quite a shootout tonight. Last week you had a shootout. I'll tell you what a ball game at Leo Buckley against Shoemaker. 3 years in a row, we were just talking about that. You go into overtime against those guys.
Yeah, it's crazy. 3 years in a row, when Heights and Shoemaker hit the field, you better buy a ticket and get there early and stay to the end because you just never know. 2 years in a row, it's come down to the wire in the final 2 to 3 minutes of the ball game. The year before we're down 15 and we're able to find a way to tie it up and send it in an overtime and get the win. And then this year, kind of a role reversal. Shoemaker was down 14 with 2 minutes, and they found a way to tie it up and goes into overtime. And luckily, we had the ball last, and we were able to put it in. So if you missed the last 2 to 3 minutes, you really missed an entertaining game for fans. Not so much for coaches, because it's in those type of games, they're very stressful. And we're just happy that we came away with the win. We feel good about it. It moved us to 3-1 in district. Puts us one step closer to the playoffs and an opportunity to return to the playoffs for the third year in a row. So we were happy to get away with it with the win, and looking forward to this week.
Yeah, it was a good ball game. I'll tell you, a great ball game to call on the radio. I was worn out by the time things were done, and I think I went to bed at 3 o'clock next morning. So it kept me up. When you get home, does it take you a while to wind down from something like that?
Yeah, typically what we do as a staff is, once we come back, we visit with the kids, and then as they leave, we watch the film. So we'll sit down that night as a staff and watch the film together. And so, that one was a little bit longer, so we watched it and kind of rehashed everything. And it does take a little while to wind down, especially in those wins, and especially the losses. The losses are the ones that keep you up at night. The wins. You're feeling a little bit, you feel good, and so it's a little bit easier to go to sleep after a win. So I was glad I was able to get the win and put it behind us and get ready for this week.
Boy, your kids are playing really, really well, just like you want them to at this time of year. And you've got that crosstown showdown. It's always a good game. Killeen is kind of in a rebuilding year over there. They got some young guys and some older guys, not that many mid guys right now, but they've got some youngsters with some speed that can take off with the ball. Watch Cade Searcy. He plays every position on the field. I don't think he's doing kickoffs yet. But you got to watch on Cade. And they got a young little quarterback, Roderick Norman, that's coming up. A good little pitcher on the baseball team.
Yeah, you watch Killeen on film, and, they do a tremendous job of moving the football and playing good defense. They've kind of been riddled with some injuries here and there, and then, mistakes in the game, bad turnovers, special team miscues, things like that. And so, you got to make sure when you're watching film that you take all that away and you focus in on the team that they can be and what they will be. And so we got to make sure, and it's a rivalry game. Last week we went into the game heavily favored, and it came down to an overtime going for 2 to win it. And so, we got to make sure that in a rivalry game, everything's tossed out the window. Both teams will be motivated. And so we got to focus on us. And I think I've said that, pretty much every interview this year. We got to execute to a high level. The other night, we couldn't get a stop when we needed to. We fumbled the ball, threw an interception there late in the game, didn't execute the onside kick. And so there's things, we gave up a big kickoff return. So there was a couple things, miscues that we made that we talked about this week, and we fixed, and we kind of emphasized. And our kids are starting to understand that. And so we got to make sure that we take care of us this week. But Killeen does have some weapons that we got to make sure that we keep in check, and that we want to try to get out early on them and try to play good defense, and our offense hopefully stays on track, putting up a lot of yards and a lot of points. But they're definitely going to be tested.
And of course, you got a lot of college scouts around watching the kids these days. That's always good for the team. It's good for the kids. You're getting some kids recruited from major colleges. And finally, I've been telling these other coaches about this. They're finally noticing Killeen and the talent that is here.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's been some success here lately. Shoemaker's been having some success. We've had some success the past couple years. And with success, team success, it brings individual accolades, and that's kind of what we stress. The better your team is, the more recognition you get, the more individual recognition you get if you focus on team and not individual needs. And so we've been able to do that. Obviously we're blessed with some really good football players who really enjoy basking in each other's success, when we talk about that team aspect. But when that happens and you're putting up points, people start noticing, and we have had some colleges come around and pay attention to some of these kids in this area, which is good. And the more big players that we have in the area brings more colleges in, and then colleges are here, and when they're scouting one kid, they find another kid, and so that benefits all of us. And I've said this before, anytime there's a big time player in the area, it brings in college coaches, and those guys get a chance to come in, and while they're here visiting that one player, they take time and come to the other schools. Geographically, it's a tough place to recruit because you can't just fly in and fly out like you can in the big metropolitan areas like Houston and Dallas. And so it helps when you have a kid that's committed to Penn State, and guys back when Shoemaker had those guys going to LSU, the guy that we had that went to Kansas. This year we got Jaden Chapman, who's getting quite a few offers. And it's bringing college coaches into the area, and they get to see the other talent that is spread around this area.
Yeah, that helps out a whole lot. You did a great job with that, let me tell you right now, sir. And as we talk about that, I got to talk about your quarterback. A phenomenal kid. Has just done wonderful this year for a youngster like he is. And I'm just amazed. I looked at his numbers, over 1,000 yards and 75% completion rate. And he runs that offense like he's a senior.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's light years ahead of any sophomore that I've ever been around. But he's a student of the game, and he has been since I've known Dylan since 9 years ago when I took the job here. And I've just kind of seen him and his grow, but he's dedicated to his craft, and he works extremely hard on it. Him and our quarterbacks coach, do a good job of installing the offense and understanding what we're trying to do. And then he's surrounded by phenomenal players. And so it's a good recipe for him. And I told him, at the beginning of the year, you're stepping into a role where you got the keys to the Cadillac. All you got to do is drive it, and he has. And he's really taken off with that. And 75% completion rate, for anyone is phenomenal, especially as a sophomore. But that's a testament, and he'll be the first one to tell you, it's his offensive line, it's our run game that opens up our passing lanes, it's our receivers making catches, running good routes. So it's a accumulation of all of that. When you're two-dimensional, people are trying to stop Rashawn. Well, that opens him up to do his thing, throwing the ball vertically or horizontally, or however we're planning an attack. And he does a good job, and he makes good reads, and he practices hard, and he puts in the time just like all of our kids because they all want to be successful. And it's shown this year. We're 6-1. If we're able to get a win Friday night, we'll tie our win total from last year, with 2 games left to go in the season. So we're excited about where we're at and what we're doing this year, and just super proud of him and all of our kids, really.
And we're proud of your nights, very proud of your nights. And the last words that I ask you,
go Knights!